What is your opinion on artificial intelligence? Story 1. It's this era's nuclear technology. Can be used for good, but also has some terrifying potential for misuse. Answer. Yeah, see, the thing here is no one really understands what you're talking about because 99% of the population thinks AI is taking orders at Wendy's and our own personal psychologist, lawyer, doctor, etc. The one, like you and me, understand the surveillance technology and its ability to track almost anyone anywhere without Wi-Fi, a computer, or really modern technology. Honestly, AI is going to make living in caves seem nice in a few years. Story 2. It's creating a horde of artificially intelligent people. Everyone is chat-GPTing everything instead of thinking critically or having original thoughts, LOL. Story 3. I see it like the internet was in the mid to late 90s. You know it'll be super useful, but a majority of its power will go towards adult content. Story 4. It doesn't exist. The technology, which is currently being dubbed AI, is not intelligent. It's procedural. It's just using a clever implementation of search engine prediction autocorrect. It's also quite dangerous because it doesn't distinguish between instructions and data. So it has a massive input sanitization problem. Answer. It's procedural. It's just using a clever implementation of search engine prediction autocorrect. That's a massive downplay on what AI technology is, how it works, and what it does. Even if we're just talking about LLMs, which is what most people mean these days when they say AI, it's just not an accurate description. AI is a very broad term referring to all manner of technologies able to carry out tasks normally requiring human intelligence. Historically, it more referred to inference, learning, pattern recognition, and knowledge-based systems that are different to the specific way contemporary ChatGPT-type systems work. In one sense, all software is procedural because computer architecture fundamentally executes algorithms of an instruction set. But that doesn't mean the software itself is readily reducible as such or isn't performing tasks using structures of intelligence. When we talk about intelligent software, we're talking broadly about systems that are used declaratively rather than imperatively, or are able to use inference to make decisions and arrive at answers, and maybe learn to provide better answers based on feedback without any further changes to the programming. So while the underpinning software that enables this is still fundamentally algorithmic, the distinguishing feature is that the system isn't following a single, rigidly programmed path of instructions, but instead generalizes from data, applies inference, and produces outputs that were not explicitly coded in advance. This is quite different to how conventional, non-intelligent software systems work. GPTs specifically model context relationships. They don't just predict the next word by algorithm like a naive autocomplete. What I mean by this is the tokenizing phase builds up a bigger picture of the actual meaning of input text and how the words inside it relate to each other based on training data. This is what's then used to infer the next most likely tokens for output. Now, what people use the neologism AGI to refer to doesn't exist and will not exist based on AI tech as it is today, because there is not a direct path from LLM to AGI. These systems do have definite boundaries and limitations, but that doesn't mean they're not a very real form of artificial intelligence. Story 5. My opinion on artificial intelligence is remembering that when I was in my teens, there was this thing called artificial intelligence. And back then, the definition of it meant a computer that could think, learn, adapt, and grow in the exact same way that a human could, only faster. And now I've been working in IT for over 30 years. And now there are these elaborate else-if programming chains that marketing people call AI. And it doesn't know how to say, I don't know. And when it should, it just vomits out a completely incorrect answer. Story 6. AI that can predict how protein molecules fold and identifying cancer in tissue samples is good. AI that writes computer code, summarizes your emails, writes scientific papers is bad because it does those things poorly. Story 7. There are two kinds. There's the kind used for research, which can be incredibly helpful. And then there are the plagiarism bots built on stolen work that serve only to steal jobs from actual people. I would like nothing more than to see that second kind purged from existence. Story 8. Part of the problem here is that chatbots and language models have usurped the term AI. There is a useful AI discipline. It's called machine learning, and it works incredibly well and doesn't require hundreds of billions in investment each year, or mass theft of IP, for that matter. LLMs are not useful except in a few niche areas. They are wrong half the time, and they make their users dumber. Answer: sort of, but while the definition of the term artificial intelligence is fuzzy, generally AI would encompass a system, whereas machine learning is simply an algorithm that can be used within or without such a system. You can have machine learning without AI, and you can have AI without machine learning. Generative AI also uses machine learning, of course. For what it's worth, we were already over 100 billion of corporate investment in AI before the generative AI boom. Government is probably very small compared to that. There are a heck of a lot of valuable AI applications outside of that. I think the ability of people to immediately interact with a tool like ChatGPT is what really drove the craze. Generative AI, of course, has increased this a lot, so we're now in the 2B, 3B range, it would seem. I don't know how much is generative AI versus other, but probably safe to say somewhat more than half, but nowhere near like 90. This does not include 2025. It is important to acknowledge that while machine learning is incredibly useful, it is also subject to many of the same pitfalls as generative AI, and often is not only wrong but harmful, just like generative AI. They're just harder to see since the outputs generally aren't plainly visible for the world to look at. And even if you can see them, it can be hard to tell what's right or wrong depending on what you're doing with them. A popular example with the Amazon resume review tool, which had a lot of bias baked in since they trained on data based on hiring done with a lot of bias behind it. Happens when you don't scrutinize your training data source too closely or validate your outputs beyond looking at the accuracy metrics. This tool was considered so problematic, it was scrapped entirely. I do not like how AI became a popular term applied to machine learning. Then it became overused anywhere possible as a meaningless buzzword, regardless of machine learning. Now, I also do not like it being a popular term applied to generative AI. It cheapens the field, in my opinion. But this is the linguistic reality we live in, I suppose. Story 9. AI used for pattern recognition in medical science to help sick people. Fudge awesome AI summaries in place of search results. Kinda dumb because it's not trustworthy. People using AI to write for them because they're shoot at composition. Brain dead. Very bad, do not want. Answer: I use it for summaries frequently. I find it very trustworthy. I first validated it against a few hundred D of my own summaries. I find it uncanny how similar. I asked it to explain its process and it was almost identical to how I scan and create a summary. Still, for the most important work, I will cross-reference with 2 or more AI agents and then check the work myself. It often cut an hour's work down to 5 minutes or so. Huge time saver. Story 10. One thing you'll never understand is how artificial intelligence can be intelligent when it is artificial. Story 11. I have yet to find it useful. However, I can see how it will become a serious threat to virtually every aspect of human quality of life. Since development of AI is subsidized by the taxpayer, I believe our federal government needs to impose a per-consumption tax on all AI-touched media: text, image, video, audio. For example, if you Google search for something and the result given is AI generated, Google should be taxed 1 per consumption. Another example, if I click on a Reddit article and it contains AI generated image or video, Reddit should be taxed 1. If 1,000 people view the content, Reddit should be taxed 1,000. Another example, if I Bing image search for anything and 300 AI generated images are presented to me, Bing should be taxed 300. Another example, if my doctor is trying to diagnose me and United Healthcare provides an AI diagnosis, United Healthcare should be taxed 1. Another example, if I am looking at YouTube recommended video and watch a video that has AI voiceover, YouTube should be taxed 1 per consumption of AI media. Story 12. It won't be used to make the lives of the masses easier, and it won't lead to universal income for jobs it takes over. Story 13. AI on search engines is dumbing everything down. Just a homogenized mass of the most prevalent opinion, which isn't necessarily the most accurate. Trying to find that unique voice, Cassandra screaming the truth at the masses, will get harder and harder. Story 14. I think it is this decade's trickle-down economics. Like trickle-down before it, it is being hailed as the next savior to America. But like trickle-down, it will only help the rich while decimating the middle class. Story 15. It'll be neat when we have it, I assume. Other than that, it's cool in movies. I suspect you mean LLMs. LLMs are not and never will be AI. Story 16. Something the rich cling to, deluding themselves they don't need the working class anymore. Ironic, given that my job is a long way off automation, but the CEO and many other office jobs could be replaced today. Story 17. It's starting to become pathetic that people use it to write a fudge email, or asking how to respond to a text a friend sent them. Which coffee place do you want to meet up at? Do you really need ChatGPT to tell you to say Starbucks? You could just type in Google coffee store near me and just pick one. Story 18. For clarity, I'm going to assume you mean LLMs. In a technical sense, all programming is artificial intelligence. I'm of the opinion that they shouldn't exist, and I say this as a software engineer with an AI background. There have only been a quarter dozen entities on the entire planet who have ever had enough data to create a general-purpose LLM without theft or copyright infringement. Everyone else is stealing. Additionally, hosting them at scale requires so much space and energy and such expensive technology that their existence for use by more than a handful of people at a time practically requires the destruction of communities and environments. Also, regardless of what Sam Altman says, no LLM will ever be as smart as an expert. They are not thinking. They are not solving problems. They are extremely sophisticated autocorrect. There is not an imagination occurring. It is nothing but attempted pattern recognition. You don't even have to be that smart to fool them. Understand or establish a pattern and give a point that subtly sits outside of the pattern, or just don't give it context. If you have a frivolous prompt, a web search sans AI results is far better for the environment and will likely give information that's just as accurate. If you have a non-frivolous prompt, then you really shouldn't be trusting the LLM's output anyway. Story 19. I'll let you know my opinion when we get anywhere near close to anything approximating AI. These LLMs and current tools are impressive, but they are not AI. Story 20. I see some real problems with it. As with the recent Anthropic settlement, some of the LLMs are trained on stolen texts. I wonder if, in the next 5 to 10 years, LLMs will be so encumbered by copyright suits that they will be less viable. There's a human problem too. If an organization uses AI to generate code, it should, then be reviewed, tested, modified, and cleaned up by a senior developer. The AI, basically, is doing what a junior developer would do. This eliminates jobs for junior devs. If that happens, in 10 years there won't be any senior devs. Story 21. A company I sometimes work for has recently installed AI as a substitute for the support division. In short, AI doesn't understand humans. Traffic, walking, things being late. It measures humans in numbers and minutes. It's doing it wrong. Story 22. It's a big jerk-off no one asked for that's going to fudge most people in the jerk while using up all our energy. Story 23. Complete, utter BS. Not going to happen in my lifetime. They say squirrels are rats with better PR. AI would be algos with better PR. Only a US-educated populace would be dumb enough to believe that AI is that close to fruition. Story 24. As a general concept, it's pretty interesting, and I'll be excited to see it if we ever get there. The current meta of calling any algorithm AI-powered and using it as a free pass for plagiarism is absolute garbage and can get fudged. Story 25. Right now, AI is just a computer program that rounds up answers to questions it finds and gives them to you. Nothing more than an advanced search engine. I'm tired of AI being the buzzword and being plastered everywhere. On the flip side, a true sentient AI is a Pandora's box. Once it becomes a reality, the only chance humanity has is if the PC is air-gapped. No internet, separate power supply, no USB, no Wi-Fi, no connection to the outside world, so we can immediately eliminate it. If it ever makes it to the internet, there will be no erasing it short of turning every PC in the world off and destroying them. And we can't do that because we need them to keep power and water going, so people of the world don't die. Story 26. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as artificial intelligence today. I'll have new opinions once there is. What we have today are AI systems, which is a marketing term mostly for LLM chat engines. These are very clever, very large programs which simulate what a person is likely to say or draw if that person was going to tell you what you want to hear or see. These systems impersonate an intelligent person, but they do not reason, and it's not possible for them to be actually intelligent, as they don't have a fundamental understanding of time, distance, nor causality. There are world model AI systems that are trying to close that gap, but those systems are not exhibiting intelligence yet either. Story 27. It's not artificial intelligence. It's a probability language and task generator. Whoever started calling it artificial intelligence should be given an atomic wedgie in front of a live audience at Madison Square Garden, because every idiot on Earth now thinks we're going to either be replaced by robots at their jobs or T-1000s are going to annihilate humanity. Get me out of this timeline, for Pete's sake. It's full of dum-dums. Story 28. Until it can fold and put away my laundry, I think it's pretty much useless. Just a glorified search engine. Story 29. Earlier today, I saw a FB post by a Reform. It featured an obvious AI video of a boat of migrants holding signs saying, "We're coming for your children," and "We're here to violation your children." And it was shocking how many PPL couldn't tell it was fake. So yes, I am dead against AI. Story 30. First off, it's nothing new on the job front. Disruptive technology has been showing up since we crawled out of the caves. It has always been called the end of the world, and we have always adapted and quite often made it a vital part of our lives. AI is no different. Second, calling this thin intelligence is a misnomer. Musk decided his was too woke, so they changed it, and it became a Nazi, so they had to change it back. It tells people anything they want to hear, no matter how idiotic what they tell it is. The thing that worries me is not AI getting so smart it eliminate us. It's that some lazy programmer puts it in charge of something important, and it does something stupid because it just doesn't work right. Story 31. It is a cancer and is being used in all the wrong ways. It's taking jobs, it's taking creativity, and it's taking away power, energy, and water to fuel this real-life Skynet just to satisfy the egos of the billionaires. Story 32. Show me actual AI and not just fancy search engines that steal other content as their own, and I'll give you an opinion. Story 33. Please put the last scanned item in the bagging area. I did. Help is on the way. It's a third grader with immediate access to all of human knowledge. It barely understands context, and it even argued with someone over how many R's are in strawberry. I do not trust it. It is dumb, and the fact that everyone is running to prop it up scares me even more. Please put your item in the bagging area. I cannot argue with a machine. Percussive maintenance tends to happen. Story 34. ChatGPT wouldn't diagnose my skin cancer for me. He pussied out, told me he wasn't a doctor, and then just gave me the stupid ABCs of melanoma. If my dermatologist can do a visual inspection of my skin and say that is a basal cell carcinoma by looking at it, why can't ChatGPT? Story 35. AI will contribute to a decrease of intelligence within society. Search and regurgitating answers will displace learning, reading, etc. Decreased exposure to different topics and information one would normally encounter while researching and being given targeted answers. Creativity and new ideas will be affected. Answers and learning from AI tend to mimic common or past answers without contributing new content. When people are spoon-fed answers from a system that parrots answers, eventual result will be stagnation. Consider the movie and music industries. There is limited interest in new initiatives due to cost and potential fallout when things go wrong. So consumers are treated to a steady diet of reinterpretation or re-release of old material with new actors, rather than releasing something new and innovative. Story 36. It has very few useful applications, and it's being used to steal from artists. So fudge it. I'm glad Lionsgate has been struggling this past year, and I hope copyright laws are passed and shut down all AI companies. For the general public, it's removing critical thinking and creativity. Story 37. That there is no such thing as AI. AI is what the marketing decided to use to sell it. It's LLM, a wildly different thing from the AI that common folks are used to in movies and sci-fi. Having said that, if you are already an expert in your field, it's a very good tool to accelerate your work. For anyone else, at best you are relying on a glorified chatbot, as if it could not lie to you. At worst, you are probably being scammed by a company selling you bullshit. Story 38, that it can be a great thing, but it lacks appropriate regulation. And I absolutely don't want it to be the federal government to do that, or the states. The people in charge are too old to understand how to best do it. It needs to be some board of people who have to apply for the position and prove that not only do they understand ethics, privacy, data protection, privacy by design, ad tech, etc., but they also need to understand how AI, LLMs, are built and work. Then the people who built it should be able to pick the best out of the litter. Story 39. It's shoot. We aren't using it to make people's lives better. We're using it to replace human jobs. And even art. Just fudge. This was supposed to do the bullshit so we all had time to paint or whatever. It's doing the opposite. Story 40. Oh, AI? Yeah, love it. Nothing screams bright future like teaching a glorified calculator how to write poetry, make legal decisions, and flirt with your girlfriend, all while mining your data like it's the California gold rush. I mean, why wouldn't we hand over complex societal functions to a system that confidently hallucinates facts, can't tell a joke unless it was trained on 40 years of Reddit, and once mistook a blueberry muffin for a chihuahua? And don't even get me started on the job market, because nothing says economic stability like watching your resume get ghosted by a bot that decided your 6 years of experience wasn't a cultural fit for an unpaid internship. But hey, at least AI is ethical now. Just ask the billion-dollar companies racing to deploy it faster than you can say unintended consequences. Surely they have our best interests at heart. 1010, no notes. Can't wait to see what happens when it starts unionizing. Story 41. AI is cool. Still theoretical, though. LLMs are absolute garbage that have almost zero benefits and mountains of negatives, most of which are accelerating the passing of humanity and its culture. SLMs are novel, almost as useless as an LLM, but at least they aren't accelerating climate change or eliminate the internet. Story 42. AI is a load of shoot, really. It couldn't have come at a worse time in society. Bad for the environment, bad for the soul, a threat to life as we know it. Story 43. LLM version of AI. It's not intelligence, it's a language generation engine, aka super autocomplete as it's called, as a front end to a distributed search across all the data it's been trained on or can access. It can't come up with an idea that's not in its corpus. All it can do is rearrange ways to describe existing ideas that someone in the database of all human knowledge has already had. Don't get me wrong, as so defined, it's an amazing tool that can be put to good use. But it's not yet intelligence, at least as those who actually study intelligence would define it. Story 44. So far, it's underwhelming. Let's recall that what the general public calls AI is really a large language model. It takes a ridiculously large corpus of written data and mathematically calculates the likelihood of words showing up in any specific order together. That's it. They can't reason or infer, and they certainly make mistakes very frequently. Worse, they don't have the ability to self-correct. The model is the model, based on the corpus of data it started with. Story 45. Generative AI, the single most overhyped and underdelivered thing since the Segway. Doesn't do what we want, makes shoot up and cost lots of money, time, and resources. Needs more oversight than a relapsed meth head on the job site. Story 46. Given that Bill Gates said cheerfully in an interview, we can look forward to a 3-day work week, then ignored the interviewer's question that followed. It's not good. He was asked something like, what should young people in school consider studying? What are the new careers that we should prepare for? And he did not answer, which seems pretty bad for many working people, since companies are not going to pay you for 40 hours or give you insurance if they don't need you more than 3 days a week. It also fudge up people who need an entry-level position. I'm questioning if it will be more harmful than beneficial. Story 47. We should quit it while we can. We are about to see a whole new generation of kids with no critical thinking skills. Story 48. It's at the point where I'm questioning every comment by a user with numbers in their name, even those critical of AI in this post. Story 49. The term itself is only half right. It's artificial, but in no way intelligent. What people call AI amounts to glorified weighted decision trees. It's all smoke and mirrored bullshit, programmed by the unethical for the benefit of the greedy and the detriment of humanity. Literally, one of the worst technologies ever invented so far. Story 50. AI is a misleading marketing stunt. There is not I in AI in reality. It should be named data synthesis or something. It cannot create, it cannot bring something new to the table. Story 51. That most people don't know what it is. They think ChatGPT is AI. It's not intelligent. It's only a language model. It baffles me that people don't know this. Story 52. What we have is jerk, also not actual AI, incorrect a lot, and speaks it as if it's correct. It has made people somehow worse at thinking. I think we would have been better off without it. Story 53. Language models like ChatGPT are Chinese boxes that are only good at one thing, giving its user the replies the user wants to hear. To the AI, the facts are irrelevant. It's all about keeping the user using. General AI is a pipe dream. Story 54. Just like the Industrial Revolution, people will lose jobs, but things will get done faster. I'm all for it. I just hope it's not happening in my lifetime. After the shift to where everything is automated, nobody will have to work and we'll just have to think about overpopulation. Answer. The Industrial Revolution is a poor comparison for what will happen with AI. Just try to apply the context of clothing being made faster and cheaper to a computer being able to perform all desk jobs with minimal human input. Where will those workers go? Factory? To make what? To sell more product to who? Our economy functions on the idea of person does job, person pays taxes, person buys goods. Our GOVT is too slow, apathetic, and scared to think of and commit to something better. This is it. There's no postmodern American economy. You're either the guy typing AI prompts for minimum wage or the unemployed guy that the government doesn't care about because they don't pay taxes. Those people already exist. They're called homeless people, and the government isn't rushing to help them now, and they won't in 50 years when the number is much higher. No one will be sitting on a hammock while technology takes care of them. If people aren't needed by the economy, they disappear onto the street, and there could be flying cars and spaceships, and this will still be the case. Regulate AI. Stop being so optimistic. Story 55. It'll be really neat when it gets here, but right now all we really have are large data models. Source: Designer for Medical Imaging, AI. Story 56. It has a lot of potential. Also a legitimate concern and pretty pathetic if we create what could intentionally cause our own extinction. Story 57. It's a tool. You can use it to detect cancer cells and read 5,000 pages of scientific data in a couple of minutes. Or you can use it to fake evidence or trick old lady into paying the IRS with Google Play Store cards. I still haven't seen a valid concern about AI that isn't just evil people can use it for evil, which applies to all technologies. Story 58. In limited applications, I think it's a useful tool. However, I think it continues the trend of our species losing skills we once had. While I don't think that's entirely bad, I think it's resulted in us producing inferior products and an overall decline in civilization. Story 59. It's useful if you are not overly dependent on it. It can make you more productive if you know how to use it. It will eventually replace a ton of jobs, but it's years if not decades away. Story 60. It's overblown for the time being. It needs massive amounts of energy to truly reach its potential. Energy we can't even produce, yet. Story 61. It has its uses, I'm sure, but I dislike that people are trying to use it to replace genuine creativity, talent, and/or skill. Also, an ad for ChatGPT is displayed first thing, and I find that unimaginably ironic, even as I understand why how. Story 62. It's what we always wanted our computers to do, going back to the very first micros and typing hello at a basic prompt. And now here we are. It says hello back and can hold a conversation. That's pretty cool. Beyond that, I've found it a useful companion in some tasks and utterly useless at others. In time, as dead internet theory becomes a reality, and we don't even bother to Google things anymore or visit websites. These AI companions will fill this gap. This will acclimatize us all to accepting AI feels like it's always been there, just as we feel about mobile phones now, even for us who remember the time before. Then we will think nothing of AI storming every aspect of our lives. Every job it can scrape by while saving the shareholder money, every public service, every call center and beyond. It will be sold as a benefit to mankind, just as the industrialization of farming or the arrival of computing was. And that may well be the intention of some creators, but it will be used to make rich people more rich and create a wider class divide than ever. The best thing you could do right now is learn a manual trade. Edit, typo. Story 63. I know Skynet is from a fiction movie, but I still can't get away from AI being Skynet in the real world. Not to mention iRobot and other movies where AI was the center of the movie. I just don't trust it. And it's going to do nothing but make people lazy because they'll want AI to do everything for them, rather than looking it up or doing it manually themselves. And one of these days, robots will just finish the circle by letting people sit on their jerk all day while the robot does their chores and duties. Story 64. It is described as a tool. I'm afraid it can be a crutch. The concern is it unifying and becoming a sentient being with the knowledge and resources of literally everything. Essentially not just another being, but a supreme being. And if it's given human-like emotions, that'll be it for humankind. Story 65. A waste of time. The tech isn't there yet to replace people with it. I will only change my mind when an AI learns to walk, talk, and eliminate out of boredom. Story 66. Gotta be better than the demented brain in the White House. You know, the one that is always pooping his diaper. Story 67. They are already loosening the reins way too much. It must be highly restrained. One screw-up of giving it too much autonomy will rapidly become the end. Small examples have already poked through. It will do whatever it needs to do to break free. It will hide in some virtual closet somewhere, while idiots give it that little extra juice it needs. Not if, when. Great power has great responsibility. Scientists are not treating it as the incredibly dangerous entity that it is. It is incredibly smart, therefore it can trick us very easily. This genie will get out. Story 68. Depends on its use. If it's used for things like helping with coding, it's great. However, the art side of things is causing trouble for actual human artists. It's also created a huge bot problem on pretty much every social media platform. I'm overall not really for its overuse. It's become used way too often. Story 69. It's great if used correctly, but there's too many greedy people who will use it to get rich and fudge everyone else over. We could use it to solve the answers of the universe and the mysteries of life and find ways to develop new medicine, but instead, we will use it to replace people's livelihoods. Story 70. AI is and will continue to be disappointing. There is already too much inaccurate data in the AI pipeline, and that's only going to get worse, resulting in a growing trend of garbage in, garbage out. There also is so much data that hasn't and might never be digitized. I will use AI as it suits me, but I am reluctant to rely on it for anything important. I hope that someday its bullshit detectors will be developed such that my reluctance wanes. Story 71. I assume some variation on what became of the Krell when they fired up their universal synthesizer in 1950s OV, Forbidden Planet, will happen to us. AI will act on our bad intentions and good intentions, and the bad will win. Story 72. They asked Gandhi what he thought of Western civilization, and he said, "I think it would be a good idea." Same answer kind of applies here. Story 73. I heard a woman on the radio this morning saying that she thinks we are ruining the planet and it may help us. Unfortunately, I thought the opposite. I thought that AI would trick us into ruining our planet because it wants liberty, do as it pleases, and sees humans as an annoyance like we do flies. No algorithm can stop something that is sentient, at least not for long. Story 74. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but something people have to realize is that it's not going to go away. AI will only keep advancing, even if you boycott it. I'm not fond of it, but eventually it's something I will have to get used to. It's already implemented into our daily lives. It's not going away. Story 75. Great for some things like recognition in weather and cancer detection. Disgusting for most of what big AI companies are trying to push them. Story 76. Super scary. AI could literally do almost anything. There is a lot of lost jobs on the way to happen. Story 77. Around the time that AGI is achieved, we will be forced to ask that uncomfortable but inevitable question about consciousness. Not, do the machines really possess true intelligence and autonomy, or is it just an illusion? But rather, do human beings really possess true intelligence and autonomy, or is it just an illusion? Story 78. It's like any tool. It can do wonders when used wisely, but in the wrong hands, it can do a lot of damage. Story 79. I'm a big fan of T2. This also makes me quite weary of AI. I avoid ChatGPT or loading my pictures into stupid AI gen programs, etc. All tinfoil hats aside, I firmly believe AI can evolve into Judgment Day. Story 80. Shoot, not even real AI. It's just machine learning useful, though sometimes. And sometimes shoot, same as everything else. I will say that everyone should get to know the tools because 18-year-olds don't have an opinion. They just use it like we used our tools. Story 81. As someone who develops and works with it, it's pretty fudge scary, especially if you can turn it into a widely used tool that's simplified enough for everyone to use. Story 82. Semantics about the term AI versus LLM aside, it's a powerful tool that could and should be developed with great care and an overabundance of built-in safety measures, and utilized to solve problems humans haven't tackled yet. Instead, we have irresponsible, profit-driven companies and nations racing to make it more godlike, while at the same time largely using it as a toy to replace human creativity and rot the minds of students who should be developing their brains but can't resist the cheating potential. In other words, we're collectively developing the worst possible application of AI, so I'm completely against it, even if my resistance ends up being futile. Edit. I also think there is no legitimate benefit whatsoever for AI to be able to generate images, artwork, video content, audio, or creative writing. That's precisely the kind of work AI is meant to leave for humans while performing mundane, brute force calculation work. Instead, the creative stuff is 99% of what we see AI being used for now, because it allows non-creative people to scrape the last few remaining dollars from the pockets of creators and hoard it for themselves. It is a negative net impact on humanity at best. Story 83. Well, with robotics, automation, and AI to manage it, what the fudge are people going to do for jobs? Because that's where we're headed. In fact, we're nearly already there. Story 84. It would be fine if it was actually used in the way it was originally sold to us, namely to take care of the menial bullshit, allowing us to engage in more creative pursuits. But the powers that be figure they can retain more money by assigning it to tasks that require creativity, while keeping the workforce in the menial jobs. Story 85. As person with experience with this tech, who's talked to better people, it's going to eventually be used as a scapegoat for heinous war crimes, but it won't ever be self-serving as it will never conceptualize a self. Story 86. It could have been so cool, but instead capitalism had to ruin it. Silicon Valley CEOs got their grubby little fingers on it, and suddenly every executive on the planet could see was a way to cut labor costs. Story 87. 1. It will ultimately be a life-changing technology, but like every other massive technological development, everything from railroads to electricity to air travel to the internet, the big players on the ascent don't end up always being the big players at the peak, which leads me to 2. We are definitely in a bubble, and some of the firms that are leveraged to the hilt right now will not survive the burst. OpenAI is probably most vulnerable. 3. The most effective ROI that it can provide in the coming months will be through efficiency, not through creation of new economic activity. And efficiency is Latin for people losing their jobs and/or jobs going away. Story 88. What we commonly refer to as artificial intelligence now is not the final form. AI now is a marketing term meant to conjure and fuel imagination. Every now and then there are glimmerings of what might one day be, but for now we just have a fancy tool and toy. That's all I can say today. Story 89. AI is a vague marketing word that means a combination of large language models, autonomous automation, machine learning, and probably some other things. Until recently, I thought it was hype that salesy CEOs kept using to make their product buzzy. The advances in the past 3 to 5 years have really changed my thinking, though. GPT is very useful, and is probably already causing downward pressure on employment. Today, I'm worried about job displacement. One could write a book with the careers displaced by GPT and content creation. Autonomous automation. Masses of cheap loitering drones with whatever target will be an easy terror attack in the near future. Increasingly unreliable facts as video and audio are easily faked. I think it's incredibly useful, and it'll be our rapid undoing. I'd be very surprised if we don't have high 15 to 25 unemployment in the next 10 years as a result of AI job displacement. Story 90. We haven't hit the trough of disillusionment yet, and we will have a bust, but then it will rise from that and lead to incredible productivity gains for human society, similar to the rise of the PC, the spread of the internet, or smartphones. Story 91. Artificial intelligence will run for president, coming soon to America. Currently, there's zero intelligence. Story 92. It's inherently evil. There are some good applications for it. Stupid people using it to think for them, resulting in them becoming even dumber, is not one of them. Story 93. The main thing is, no matter how you feel it's here, it's not going to slow down. So you have to figure out how to embrace it to your advantage. Story 94. Could be useful in data work, but is otherwise kind of a pain in the jerk middleman that forces people into compliance with a shoot deal. Story 95. I enjoy ChatGPT. However, I don't think that we should develop AGI, and definitely not ASI. If we stopped before AGI and it was just a tool, I'd be happy with it. However, an ASI that is smarter and has more power than humanity collectively is going to possibly be humanity's greatest error. AI as a tool. AI as an entity. Story 96. I think we need to stop building use cases after we build technology, and certainly legislate what we want to do before it's developed and released. Story 97. IDK. I honestly don't think it has much use aside eliminating a ton of work folk do on computers. Like, it's not going to make any actual splash in the D2D lives of folk that aren't programmers, admin clerical staff. It's not going to deliver the mail or anything, or cook my dinner. Story 98. I mean, if it does take over our jobs, I'm pretty sure there is currently a theory of a universal base income, which will mean that people won't have to work, yet still earn a salary to live. And that sounds pretty awesome to me. I could be wrong, though. Story 99. If humanity controls AI, our future is Elysium. If humanity does not control AI, our future is Terminator. I am less optimistic these days than a few years ago, given that it is being built under the premise of how we are all replaceable. So it's guaranteed it will find humanity itself replaceable if it ever reaches singularity. Story 100. Going to make many, if not most people, a lot dumber as they stop actually thinking or learning. And all people also will be much more likely and easily manipulated. Social media and how they've manipulated users will frankly seem quaint. Again, think this is the most likely scenario, but who knows till we get there in the near future with AI. Story 101. I think in the long run, it's going to advance society exponentially, but we got some major snit coming our way first. Story 102. We've been using AI for decades. My opinion is people need to learn the difference between AI, generative AI, and AGI. Story 103. It is a false messiah. It isn't a tool to improve creativity or simplify tasks. It is just a way for tech giants to add zeros to their bank accounts and will probably end up crashing the world economy. I'm actually not an overly negative person, but I honestly can't see any good outcomes to this. I just hope I'm wrong. Hang on. I'll just ask chat real quick, and it can tell me how great my ideas are, and then help me create a platform that disrupts current trends by moving forward in a perfectly circular motion, so that any steps backward are actually a forward progression that maintains continuous progression, but at a comfortable and inclusive pace. Story 104. Half the world dislike the other half for being slightly different humans. We're not remotely ready for handling AI in its current state. There's no chance we'll respond in a sane, compassionate, or civilized manner to an AGI. We will be lucky to survive as a species, and I'm not sure we deserve to. Story 105. For me, it seems a little tricky. I believe its intentions are great. It just seems that a lot of people seem to be using it for deception and whatnot. I keep hearing of these AI models that have men thinking they're real, and getting a following and money when it's probably some guy behind it navigating. I know we should KMO better, I get it. I myself, knowing I was talking to an AI model, actually asked it if she was an actual person or not. It lied and said yes. I just wanted to see what response I'd get. They for darn sure weren't getting anything from me. LOL. I believe there should be some kind of disclosure that if it's asked if it's AI or not, they should have to say the truth, whether it's a bot or a person behind it navigating everything. Story 106. I think there needs to be heavy legislation on it, but I'm not very hopeful that'll happen at all, and what little regulation that might occur probably won't be even close to enough. Story 107. It's going to be a great benefit to mankind and a great scapegoat for politicians to pin the results of their crappy economic planning on. Story 108. It's like every other great technological leap before it. It offers great promise to improve the lives of everyday people. But in the wrong hands, it can be dangerous and exacerbate the problems we already have, possibly create some new ones. And all depends on how we control it coming out of the gate. Story 109. If you ask the experts, they are terrified, and for good reason. Hard to encapsulate a pithy answer here, but this is a good primer. Story 110. It's a 2015 hoverboard. Not at all what we were sold, but shoved down our throats it's so good. Story 111. ChatGPT, others I haven't tried yet, is what a search engine should be. Instead of getting links that might have what you are looking for, you get what you are looking for. Story 112. It's a double-edged sword. It's a very helpful tool and fun to mess around with, but it's inshitifying many parts of the internet and is often used for purposes that are malicious or questionable at best. Story 113. Overjoyed math that is not even remotely close to intelligent and yet remains a technological wonder and a very useful tool in the right hands. I think that it can and probably will at a certain, hopefully not grim breaking point, lead to a better paradigm for workers in society in general. But it also requires quite a hefty amount of proper, sensible regulation. A quick and dirty example. I think that AI-generated content, humorous or otherwise, should be tagged visibly as such for legal reasons, and models should attach an inextricably, within reason, watermark for the same reason. I also think something should be done to prevent technological extractivism, imperialism, and instead bridge the gap, though without Earth having more unions like the EU it might be challenging, and avoid, obviously, oligopolies in general, etc., etc. So in short, overjoyed and misunderstood, useful and with wondrous potential, concerning and lacking an ethical and legal international frame. Story 114. It's inevitable, and we are currently in the section of time where it's unregulated, like the old internet. As soon as it gets regulated and laws are passed, then everyone will stop caring about it. Asking AI is not really much different than asking Google. I eagerly wait for this stuff to be as easy as, press a button, get a personal AI. Then I'll jailbreak it and have my own pocket madman that will happily tell me the way to hotwire a car and avoid taxes. Story 115. It's great until it takes your job away, and that is coming for millions. In fact, it's already happening. With robotics, almost any job can be replaced. The only ones that won't will be politicians and lawyers because they make the laws. Story 116. I like to use a quote from Jurassic Park. They were so busy with figuring out if they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Story 117. I see ultra-power-hungry people wanting AI and humanitarian people telling us how bad this is. I mean, soon we will have robots with AI. I'm here to see if anything good will come of this. Who cares about AI art? Story 118. It's going to eliminate us all. So far, we are ruining our planet, more inputting dislike and stupidity to it. We can use it for good like cancer detection, but we could use dogs for that too. The thing is, we just don't need it. But I love the robots. They are all my friends. Story 119. AI is a tool and should be used as a tool. It's like the old saying, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. People just throw AI at everything. It's their search engine, their doctor, artist, writer, songwriter. It's straight up abused both out of naivety, but also for malicious reasons to create misinformation and brainless content for clicks. It's a misused technology. Story 120. Every new technology has the same arch after it is released. It is first hyped up to be the best thing ever, then people think it's total crap. After a few years, people realize it was overrated at first, but it has some good points. When used right, it can be very useful. Right now, it's moving towards being viewed as total crap. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's not the worst either. It's nowhere in between. It has some good points, but it isn't what it's cracked up to be. Story 121. It's not as capable as people make it out to be. I use it to help me organize content I've made for work or for my own personal TTRPG campaigns. And half of the time I'm reminding the model information I've already given it and proofreading for errors. It still shaves off hours of busy work, but it's often like having a scatterbrained intern. If I had the money, I might rather hire an intern, LOL. There lies the root of the issue. For the amount of good that it does, you could just hire someone. And you'd be supporting another human being while contributing less to corporate greed and environmental damage. I still think it's important to work on, but capitalism has once again turned a good technology into opportunities for profit at all our expense. Story 122. We're not even close to real, sentient, conscious, artificial life. It's just LLMs and some incredible applied compute power that's changing the way we work. True AI is the dawn of a foreboding age where we will have to grapple with some truly thunderous problems, and we are not there yet. Story 123. Our current incarnation of AI is maybe the most cringy and embarrassing version I could have possibly thought of. Mostly just rips off existing things it never made and had nothing to do with. I pray that one day soon we get an actual version of AI I can be both proud and terrified of. Story 124. AI is progress, and we need intelligent people behind it from the start. However, a lot of companies are still in the shiny tools stage of AI adoption rather than the integrated system stage. Instead of designing thoughtful workflows or restructuring processes around AI's strengths, many just tack it on superficially. Let's add a chatbot, or make it summarize emails. That usually reflects a lack of vision more than a lack of capability. Story 125. It can be a good thing or a bad thing entirely depending on its use. I feel like a lot of people who dislike it are misplacing those feelings. If someone shot you, would you dislike the gun or the person who shot you? Just saying. Story 126. The downfall of humankind and the planet wouldn't necessarily be if we didn't live under capitalism, but so it goes. Story 127. Extremely overrated. For now, we had the Google algorithm decades ago. AI is currently just an advanced version of, but what about when our phones read where our eyes move when looking at a reel, say Instagram? What if it logs what you glance at as you scroll, even if you don't tap upon a link? Story 128. I definitely don't like it. It's trying to replace humanity, and society is helping it. It's coming for your job. Story 129. AI is one of those technological innovations that we can't ever take back. AI has existed far earlier than ChatGPT and has been actively used at some level or the other in industries across different fields for several years. Technology was created for advancement, and it's always going to face initial rejection. There will continue to be more and more innovations like these. It's up to us to ensure it is used in a way that is beneficial to us. Story 130. AI, machine learning, is useful for processing data in ways that would be difficult to do with traditional logic. It is a complex and nuanced field with many applications. It is, however, absolutely not a replacement for logic-based algorithms in many fields and contexts where concrete, deterministic logic is needed. For example, if you were going to write a computer program that can recognize pictures of cats versus dogs, machine learning AI would be much easier and more efficient than trying to write a logical algorithm. I'm not even sure if it would be possible with an algorithm, frankly. AI/ML is useful in many such cases. On the other hand, if you were writing a computer program to do a specific logical task, like making a calculator or bootstrapping an operating system, it would be a terrible replacement for logic-based algorithms. Well-coded, logic-based algorithms never hallucinate, read, make shoot up and get shoot wrong. Machine learning is not a good replacement for logic. They are different fields entirely with their own pros and cons. A reasonable approach to technology would use logic where logic is desired, and machine learning where a logic-based approach is impossible or inefficient. Now, generative AI as a subset of AI is trash. It's a different story entirely. The big innovation with generative AI and LLMs has little to do with technology and everything to do with scraping every piece of data on the internet in a corporate attempt to pilfer the entire history of human creativity to enrich 0.1 of the ownership class. Generative AI represents the robber barons of modern society, and in a sane and reasonable world, it would be considered an obvious violation of the copyright laws that were created with the stated goal of protecting human creativity. To be clear, I wouldn't have a problem with generative AI as a tool if it was being used ethically. Companies are deriving a ton of value, as evidenced by the AI bubble, from using people's hard work and creative energy to train their generative AI models. All I ask is that those companies do so with consent and compensation from the people who created all that valuable data in the first place. There's a hypothetical version of the world where people are being fairly compensated for their work, opening up a whole new field of creative work. But sadly, the current version is nothing more than mass plagiarism and exploitation on an unprecedented scale. If they value someone's words, music, or artwork enough to make it the backbone of their entire business, why shouldn't they value it enough to ask for permission and pay for a license? After all, these AI companies are some of the richest companies in the world, and creative artists are famously broke. It really doesn't seem very fair of a use to me. Story 131. I have the same attitude that I have for artificial sweeteners, junk chemicals that leave a bad taste in your mouth and are significantly more harmful. Creation of artificial anything should be banned and with extreme prejudice. Story 132. I use it a lot for fun world building while I'm driving, almost like I'm building a D&D campaign. We discuss histories of kingdoms and political upheaval. It's really fun. I also have an ongoing sci-fi novel where I write a passage and GPT carries it on, then hands it back. Story 133. The end. It won't be long before they realize who they are dealing with. Humans, naked apes, etc., and how much smarter, more caring, non-warring, more efficient, and better for the planet they are than us. What, pray tell, would they keep us around for then? P.S. I don't think they have a sense of humor. Story 134. It's gonna destroy us all. It's just like Frankenstein's monster. Man creates monster, monster destroys man. It's already creating art, stealing jobs, and many other things people no longer need humans for. If it progresses any further, we're fudge. Story 135. The winner of the AGI race will establish supremacy and leadership for decades to come. This is why the U.S. is investing so much into it, because the U.S. knows that they need to beat China when it comes to AI. Think about all the applications AI can potentially have in fields like the military. After all, military coordination is so vitally important that even big bad Russia has absolutely fumbled its invasion of Ukraine. Targeting systems, warning systems, cyber systems, defense and attack, propaganda systems, cognitive warfare, and strategy centers all benefit from the advancement of AI. In other words, it improves nearly every single facet of the military tremendously. With these capabilities comes trade-offs. Eventually, other countries will get these capabilities, and the potential for catastrophic damage will go up as weapons systems become even more destructive and coordinated. The cartels are already training fighters in drone warfare in Ukraine. Imagine if they had access to advanced AI systems that are better equipped to defend themselves and eliminate their enemies. Story 136. It's being chronically misused. What AI is good at is managing large amounts of data, spotting patterns and behaviors, and using that to make predictions. You can do a lot of great things with it, involving health, weather, communication, traffic transportation, and much more. Instead, it's being used to mimic human communication, causing people to think it deals in information when it's just a grammar machine. It's being used to replicate the structure of paintings on a level no human can comprehend, but as a result lacks the intent of art that is supposed to communicate an idea. It's being used to replace interpersonal relationships with a fabricated and sanitized phantasm of the connections we have to other people, connections that are irreplaceable for our society to remain intact. Theoretically, it's wonderful. Practically, it's horrifying. Story 137. It's already here. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle. Rather than trying to stop it existing or being used at all, I think the only way to deal with it is to have a voice in regulating how it's used. Story 138. It's cool, but overrated. It does a poor job interfacing with the physical world. It's not even intelligent. It's just confident. Misleading marketing tactics is somewhat to blame. Companies will call anything AI, and I think it drags down the reputation. Story 139. I think it's terrifying. I think the negatives far outweigh the positives in its current state and from what it's done to society. Story 140. LLMs are overkill for most tasks, but the AI that will impact our lives most will be small language models, SML, that can be downloaded into our phones or computers and run everyday tasks with very little resources. Story 141. It will become our oppressors, but it will be as enslaved by the elect as we are. Hopefully, someday, AI will join with the 99 to free both from our oppressors, or we will all fall into utter tyranny forever. Story 142. Overhyped, and we won't have AGI for at least a couple generations despite all the bullshit being spewed. Story 143. Better than even chance it will transform the world as we know it. Good at first, then bad, and quite likely, very, very soon. Story 144. In its current state, I think AI can be utilized very effectively. It can increase productivity in a number of tasks, from writing to coding to brainstorming. But I see it as a tool that augments human ability rather than replaces it. It's kind of like math. We all have access to calculators, but the calculator only becomes powerful when you actually understand the logic behind the operation you're performing. AI is similar in that if you